Hi, I'm George. I'm an actor. Now, you may not know it, but on every actor's resume, there's a small spot set aside specifically for special skills. They can range from slapstick practitioner to tumbling, from aerial silks to haircuts. Try and guess which one is not on my resume. Give me a day or two, and I'll have it learned. Today on Sunday in Isolation with George, we'll be talking about how to learn a new skill quickly. Okay, so if you haven't gathered already, I have the ability to learn a new skill within a couple days or within a couple hours. Side note, what I'm about to reveal to you is a kind of superpower. Especially once you've gained a certain level of mastery in this concept. But I want to warn you, there are no shortcuts, cutting corners, tricks, or magical spells. This is work. And it can be intimidating and frustrating at times, but once you have a solid process for skill learning, you will become master of the tangible world around you. You will see things differently and be able to break things down into their logical components. A superpower written into our DNA, the reason why humans have been evolving for 6 million years, the process behind adaptation.
Intelligence is the ability to adapt to change.
What is that? So, best case scenario, you're an actor who's been hired to play a part in a show and told months in advance to learn a new skill. Worst case scenario, someone drops out of the show. You're given 1 day to learn a new skill. But what if you're an actor in between jobs just wanting to build your special skills? In either case, you run across your first problem. Where do you begin? Sometimes the intimidation of learning something new can stifle your motivation to just get up and do it. It's way too enticing to choose to do the simple tasks that you know you can accomplish than the difficult ones you know nothing about. It causes cognitive dissonance and discomfort. But take into consideration that discomfort can be used as a tool in your process. Discomfort is only a sign of change. Yeah, you know. Yeah, that's an airplane. Yeah. So, where to begin?
1. Gathering knowledge.
Unless you've been under a rock for the past 20 years, you've probably heard of YouTube. Wait, are we on YouTube? Yeah. First, look for videos. More than likely, there will be hundreds of videos on the new skill you're about to master. But avoid lengthy tutorials that have too much information. Kind of like this video. Most lengthy tutorials are filled with personal opinion, which may contradict other people's experiences, and may not be essential to perform the skill itself. And look for articles on the subject before you look for books. Don't try to bog yourself down with too much information. Only what's essential for getting started. I can easily fall in the trap of spending most of my time researching everything there is to know about the subject and giving myself very little time to actually practice. You can do what's called backfilling later, after you've experienced a level of physical understanding of the skill. One of the greatest evolutionary traits about human beings is our ability to identify patterns. The itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. After watching a few videos and reading a few articles, a pattern will emerge. The information you find in common between your sources will hold true as universal knowledge of that skill. So, now that you've gathered all the information that you need, it's time to practice. Right? Wrong. Another trap I can fall into is wanting to practice everything at once. That's not a good idea. It can also make it very difficult for you to identify areas in your process that need correction. Which brings us to part 2.
Identify the narrative of said skill.
You need to break down that skill into its individual parts and in what order you need to train. Actors, writers, and directors do this with our scripts. Writers break the play down into individual acts and individual scenes. Actors and directors break the scenes down into individual beats. And actors take it a step further. We break the beats down into simple, playable actions. All a skill is a handful of simple actions put into a logical order to complete a task. For example, I've practiced archery since I was 12, but a few years back I wanted to learn mounted archery, which requires you to learn speed shooting. So I broke it down into 3 sections, getting the arrow to the bow, proper draw, proper release. Then I would break each section down into simple actions. To get the arrow to the bow was to reach for the arrow, pluck, index, knock, and all without looking. I would practice each action separately, then put them together to make one fluid motion.
3. How to practice.
The first thing you need is time. Give yourself at least 2 to 3 hours a day to work on this skill. The second thing you need is time. Take care of all the other life stuff that might be distracting you from taking the time to get into the right headspace. The third thing you need is time. Use your time efficiently. Don't try to do your 2 or 3 hours all at once. You'll tire yourself out and make yourself so frustrated you'll never want to do this skill again. Spread it across the day in 20 to 30 minute increments with large breaks in between. Remember, discomfort needs to be used as a tool. The 20 to 30 minute mark gives you enough time to practice and feel a little bit of the discomfort of frustration. When we practice, we create new neural pathways. The more we practice, the stronger the pathways get. Frustration comes when we meet gaps in the pathway, sending a signal of discomfort to our subconscious saying, there's something wrong, your turn to fix it. This puts your subconscious into overdrive. It'll work on bridging the gaps either during your breaks or even when you sleep.
Dreams are where we solve the problems of our everyday lives.
Also, visualize.
Visualize.
Yes, visualize, either during your breaks or before you go to sleep. Visualizing will actually work those neural pathways, and it's been proven that visualization will give you the same percentage of improvement as physical practice. And practice using chunk learning, like I mentioned before with the archery. Break down the skill into its individual actions, practice each action separately, then put them together into one fluid motion. And lastly, use video or get a coach. Either one will give you an outside eye and help you pinpoint where you need correction. And one more thing, you must figure out your reason why. You must fall in love with what you're doing. And remember, if it doesn't tell a story or move the story forward, it probably doesn't belong in the show. We'll see you next time on... I'm gonna have to fix this flat before the next video. Sunday in Isolation with George.